So I really wanted to do like a video on why I chose the same Saint Waffles and all of that, but lately, just like the last couple nights, I've been really having this dream to talk about the Prodigal Son and my struggles with it and how I learned from it. And I don't know why I've been having these dreams. I don't know why I've been having these feelings, but I thought maybe that'd be a good first video to this channel and what I'm trying to do. So I am by no means an expert. I am not a biblical authority. I am not a father. I am not a theologian. I am not a master's degree holder, nothing like that. But I thought it was important to share what I know because I have this passion for Catholicism and I have this passion for Christ and God, and I wanted to share it, but I'm not an expert, right? And we have this, I don't know if it's a misconception that you have to be an expert before you can speak on something. And I got this feeling, like I said, that I really wanted to share my struggles with the prodigal son. And I thought, okay, maybe that's why I'm supposed to share this. I'm not an expert. I'm not anything mind-blowing. Anything I say here has probably been rehashed a million times, but I thought maybe I'm supposed to share this because someone out there needs to hear it. So if that's you, if you needed to hear this interpretation, these thoughts, whatever it is, then it's all worth it, right? It's all coming together. So as I've hinted at and probably said a few times here already, we're going to talk about the prodigal son story today, which comes from Luke. And we'll go over the story just briefly because, of course, if you don't know it, then you'll have no idea what I'm talking about, right? So the story of the prodigal son, kind of broken down into quick snippets. It's better if you read it and really get to understand it, but quick tidbits on it. So there is a father and he has two sons. One son, the youngest, basically says, "Father, you are dead to me, and I want my inheritance." Basically saying, pretend you're dead and give me what I would have gotten if you died because I want to go do things. And the father does it for him. So he divides his land up and gives his money to the younger son, and the younger son goes out and experiences the world. And he lives very lavishly. He does all those things that people want to do. He gets to achieve all those things people get to do. You get to see the world. You get to sleep in many different places and be a rock star, basically, right? And then eventually that money runs out because when you're spending money and not making money, hey, it eventually runs out, right? So he goes and gets a job. And he gets a job doing work with pigs, I think cleaning out like pig stalls and feeding pigs, which for that time and for the kind of person he was a very lowly, very embarrassing job. It's not something that they would do, right? And he comes to his senses and he says, wait a second, I'm sitting here doing this job that I don't want to do, that I shouldn't be doing, and I'm dreaming about eating this pig slop because I'm so hungry I might be tempted to eat this food that's unclean for these unclean animals. I should go home and beg my father. I can't be a part of the family anymore, but he treats his servants better than this, so if I go back home, then maybe I can be a servant and be treated slightly better. And he goes back home, and his father sees him coming, runs out to him, hugs him, loves him, tells him to prepare a celebration and slaughter the fattened calf. We're going to have a celebration because my son has returned to me. And then finally we meet the other brother who basically comes in and says, this is unfair. I've lived faithfully. I've done everything you've said. You've never done this for me. Why would you do this for him when you've not done this for me? Because he said you were dead. And the father says, he was lost, but now he's found. He was dead. Now he's back. Let's celebrate. And I have struggled with this for so long. And I hope maybe in part of me talking about this is I hope other people have struggled with this, right? I think it's a bad thing to say, right? You don't want to hope someone else is struggling with something, but I hope I'm not alone in this, right? Because it feels like at face value when you're just starting out in your faith and you're just starting out learning and you hear this story like, oh, okay, yeah, we're happy he comes back and everyone gets to be together and that's a happy thing, but then you start to see it from the brother's perspective. Like, he did do everything right. So this brother just gets to go squander the inheritance, do whatever, and he gets to come home and he gets celebration and party. And what do I get for doing everything right the whole time? And it only recently started to come together to me as I've been praying on it, reading on it, thinking on it, and learning and growing. Me and my wife just recently went through the RCIA program. So a lot of faith and a lot of learning packed into one, right? It's a very, very short course that goes over a lot of information. I mean, it's a journey you could spend an entire lifetime on. So trying to do it in a few months is just way too much, right? So there's a couple things that I kind of realized as people help me to understand this that I hope maybe make sense to you and maybe can help you to see it from a different point of view and maybe understand this parable a little bit more. The first one is that the brother who didn't squander everything makes it out to be like, oh, he got to go do everything that he wanted to do. I've been doing everything right this whole time. Where's mine? Where's my celebration? Where's my praise? My praise. And there's a couple things wrong with that. One being that if you look at the story as a whole, we don't really get to see a whole lot of the brother, right? But he says it himself. He's been working there hard and doing the right thing the whole time, right? Like, he got to live in his father's house. He got presumably well-fed, a good bedroom, a good life, a happy life. He talks about getting to spend time with his friends. Yes, he didn't have the fattened calf, but he still got friends and got to hang out with his friends and do things. So even though we don't focus on that brother as much, it's implied and just very briefly shown that he has a good life. And that's kind of part of the teaching that's glanced over. Like, when we think of this unfairness that you get to live a life of sin and do whatever you want, you repent right at the very end, and then you get into heaven, and, well, that's not fair. But it is fair, right? Because it's God. Anything dealing with God must be just because God is just, right? There can be no injustice when you're dealing with God. And so we see that younger brother didn't get to spend all that time with his father, right? He missed out on things. And so there are still consequences for his actions. Yes, he's forgiven. Yes, he gets to come back home. And yes, he gets that love. But he still missed out on that time with his father, time with his friends, times he could have been happy, times he could have had bountiful things. He suffered a great deal. And yes, it's kind of glossed over because it's a very short parable, right? They don't go on and on and on. But if he was out there starving and most likely either homeless or, sleeping in the pig pens and things like that, that's not a good life. That's not a happy life, right? So we tend to think of it as, oh, he got to go do everything he wanted to, and then he gets to go home and everything's okay. But really, he suffered for a long period of time. And this other brother doesn't see that, yes, he didn't get to go out and do every wild thing that he wanted to, but he still had a good life. He still had a happy life. He had an honest life. He had what most people would strive for, right? Who wouldn't want a life where they have time for friends, they have all their needs taken care of, they have an honest job, and they can honestly say that they're happy, right? This brother had it all, and he can't see it through, I guess you'd call this jealousy, this envy. And I think it's something a lot of people misconstrued about the faith. And this is something that a wonderful man who I believe fully, one day he will be a saint, his name is Brad, I fully believe that, explained is that rules don't have to be binding. They don't have to be shackles, right? Marriage, he always gave this example, marriage has rules. You're not allowed to do certain things in a marriage. That doesn't make the marriage worse. That makes the marriage better, right? Because those rules enhance it. And so it is with God, right? God loves us so much, he gives us these rules, and we see by that older brother, if you follow these rules, you live a happy life. If you don't follow the rules, you end up like the younger brother. And yes, he got to go do what he wanted to do, but was he happy? No. Did he live a good life? Not during that part. Did he regret it? Yes. And did he miss out on what's most important? This is like the key. This one didn't click for me until it just clicked for me the last time I was studying this. He missed out on the most important thing. It's so easy for us to get like, oh, I want a new car, or I want to be famous, or I'm on a stream here right now. I'm streaming, so I want to be a streamer. I want to be a famous streamer. It's so easy to get focused on that you forget about the things that are truly important. And that's our relationship with God, right? That's our relationship with Christ. That's our love of God and God's love of us. That brother had all of that for all that time, and he took it for granted. So really, yes, we need to look at the story from the younger brother. That's definitely important. That's an important lesson. It's also important to learn from the older brother of missing out on the things that you do have because of this jealousy for other people, for things that you don't even want. They're bad for you, right? The little brother's life was bad for him. And somehow the brother's jealous that he got to got to experience that he got to suffer. Like, I know we should pray for our crosses and hope that we someday can carry our cross like Jesus, but we shouldn't be doing it that way, right? So I like I said, I wanted to do a different series. I wanted to start somewhere else, but this one I was dreaming about this. It was in my mind. I love this story, and I finally understand this story after studying it and learning and going through this process. So again, it's probably nothing new, probably nothing insightful, but hopefully maybe there's just even one person out there who just needed to hear this, and hopefully that's the reason I couldn't get it out of my mind, is because I had to just put it all out into my mic, put it all out into you guys so that you could hear it, and hopefully, again, that's good for someone out there.